The Vietnam War split the Australian community in two. Burchett's reports were largely ignored by the conservative daily press, but his articles and books were read where they had the most impact, amongst the anti-war activists, both in Australia and overseas. Wilfred Burchett was still the only Western journalist consistently covering the war from the communist side.
I've come to believe over the years that my duties as a journalist go beyond my responsibilities to an editor or to a publisher, and that my duties as a citizen of the world go beyond my responsibilities only to my own country. In other words, I reject the my country right or wrong.
With Australian conscripts dying in the jungles of Vietnam, Wilfred Burchett's activities brought enormous resentment. In this climate, his repeated requests for a new Australian passport were rejected.
The Australian government went to extraordinary lengths to keep me out of the country. In 1969, for instance, my father was dying. He was 97, almost 97, and I asked to go back then on compassionate grounds, but it was refused. In the end, the question was becoming quite serious for the children. They were approaching the age at which they needed their own identification document. And that is when I forced my way in through the back door, I might say, in 1970 to Australia, to attract public attention to the case and also to fight out the question on the spot. It was arranged that a newspaper proprietor sent over a small private plane, and I flew into Australia with that, entered with my birth certificate. It was a very scandalous business, and it put the government into great ridicule. On the one hand, they were saying that I was such a terrible person that I must not be allowed back into Australia. And on the other hand, if they thought I was such a terrible person, they should have been glad to get their hands on me. I was fighting to get into Australia, and they were fighting to keep me out.
Here he comes.
Come in quietly over the years. I tried to come in very quietly this time, without any publicity of any sort whatsoever.
Oh, no, you're not expecting us to believe that.
Look, is it...
Who caused the delay, do you think?
Do you feel that you've been a traitor to the Allies in this particular case?
I've certainly not been a traitor to the Allies. I've opposed policies in Vietnam. I oppose Australians being killed on Vietnamese soil. If it were Vietnamese invading Australian soil, I'd be supporting Australia. I oppose Australians killing and being killed on Vietnamese soil. And I think a great number of other Australians feel the same way.